Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. Some interesting information. It's not even interesting. Oh my gosh, what am I talking about? It's not interesting, but today I decided to look up exactly how many days that I have until my first frost date, and I have 13 days. Now, that doesn't mean that I'll get frost on that exact day. I could get frost before that day. I could get frost, days, weeks after that day. But that is the first day that I am likely to start seeing frost. So what that means for me, I'm in zone 5. That means that anything that is tender to frost can get hit and will start to die back. That means the foliage will start to die on that plant. So what I want to share with you today is, the chickens are so loud. They have no respect for me and what I'm trying to do here. Like, I'm doing this so I can share the garden and hopefully earn some money so I can keep feeding them. But they want to scream in all my videos. They're very ungrateful children. Anyways, what I'm going to share with you today is what you need to start doing to get your garden ready for winter. Get your garden, some people say put your garden to bed, put your garden to sleep for winter. There are a lot of things that you can do to do this gradually, and that's what I've been trying to do, is to do little things here and there so that I'm not trying to stress myself out by getting all this crap done after a frost hits, and I've got just house plants dying outside, everything's looking really bad because it's got hit with frost. So that's what I'm going to share with you guys today. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing that I want you guys to do is to clean up anything that is dead, damaged, or diseased. If it's dead, pull it out, compost it. If it's diseased, cut it back. If it's a perennial, if it's an annual, go ahead and just get it right out of there. Damaged, do some pruning, prune off anything that is damaged, get it out of there. If you've got a compost bin, compost it. If you've got a compost service that comes and picks up your yard waste, make sure you get that all gathered up and at the curb for them to pick that stuff up. That's where I am starting in my own garden, and that's where you should start as well. Any plants that you think have had a pest issue or a disease that could potentially overwinter, if you kept it in your compost, get rid of it. You don't want to even chance overwintering something like that and then using that compost and it infect your garden the following year. Unless you are a compost expert and you can get your compost to heat up to that high enough temperature where it would kill anything like that, then definitely do that. Keep that. It's not a big deal for you, but for anyone else who's not a composting expert and you don't know how to get your compost up that high, if you're new at composting, if it's diseased, if it's pest ridden, get rid of it. Don't attempt to overwinter it. If you get any sort of leaf fall in your garden, I want you to take those leaves. You can mow them down to make them smaller, or you can leave them regular size, but I want you to put them in your garden beds to act as a mulch. As those leaves break down, they do feed the soil, so you can leave them there all year round and just keep adding to it year after year. If you want to do that, you definitely probably should mow them down just to make them keep them in smaller sizes, because if you have a leaf mulch that is too thick, you risk not getting the water down to your plants. So you want to make sure that your mulch layer is not taller than 4 inches, not thicker than 4 inches. So mowing it down is probably going to be best. But if you don't want to do that, leave the leaf litter in your garden beds, and then in spring when the garden wakes back up, You can take that leaf mulch out, you can put it on the curb for your service, your composting service to come get it, or you can mulch it down at that point, you know, mow it down and use it as a compost in your potting mix. I've done that before where we've mowed down leaves and I've mixed it into the soil with my pots. It does add extra drainage because it's a different material, and it also, as it breaks down, can feed that soil. So definitely think of different ways to use the leaves that fall in your garden. Another way that we use them is we give them to the chickens. They compost them down for us. I haven't done this before, but you can also use leaves as chicken coop bedding. You can use it as nesting material. It's free, it's organic, and it's there for anybody that needs it. So if you don't have a lot of leaf fall in your area, you can always, you know, go through neighborhoods, ask people if you can have their leaves, put something out on Facebook Marketplace, or not necessarily even Marketplace, like just asking for anyone who has leaves that you can come and pick up. So it's a good option for making your own compost. It's free, so why not try it? So the next thing that you're going to want to do in the fall is, if you have already or are planning to get any spring blooming bulbs, you want to plant those in the fall. They need a period of coolness to be able to bloom properly in the spring. So your tulips, your crocuses, your hyacinths, your alliums, daffodils, like all of those bulbs that you see blooming so well in the spring. They look so pretty in everyone else's yard. If you want those, you got to plant them in fall. You also, if you are a gardener and you love garlic, it is a great time to plant your garlic fall. I usually plant my garlic sometime in October, and I harvest in late June, July for my garlic. So it's a good time. If you live in a warmer zone, you can get away with planting your garlic probably like in January or so and still be able to harvest that year. You just have to look it up and know your zone and know how to grow in your zone. But definitely, if you are new to growing in your zone, look it up. If you are in a warmer zone, definitely do some research, follow some people who live in your zone, and that is the best way to go about how to grow where you live. So the next thing I want you to do is to make sure that you leave anything that is still flowering, leave that going for any pollinators that are still around late in the season. They're still going to need something to eat. So if you've got plants that have flowered, still looking great, leave them up for the pollinators. So the next thing that I do in my garden, and that you should also do in your garden, is adding in compost. Now this is outside of leaf mulch. You want to add in, if you have it, you don't have to go out and buy anything extra to add compost, but it's just a good practice to get into. So if you make your own compost, you can add that to your garden beds, your raised garden beds, your in-ground garden beds. You want to take care of your soil, so adding in compost late in the season when everything is pulled out, or adding it in spring before you plant, is a good practice to have. I have started doing this, and like this year is where I'm really going to be digging into taking better care of my soil, especially the soil where I am growing food. This year I'm also planning on using some of the chicken coop compost that I haven't been making it, but the chickens have been making it, and I am looking forward to using that in my cut flower garden, and then in one of my front garden beds, and then if there's any left after that, then I'm going to be using that compost in my raised garden beds. So until you start experiencing regular cold temperatures, regular frost, you should continue to water your garden, especially if you have anything that is potted perennials. there comes a point where, okay, this doesn't make any sense. But once those plants have died back to the ground, or have just stopped producing foliage, there are lots of signs that tell you that that plant has gone dormant. So make sure that you're watering up till that point. It doesn't have to be a ton of water. It doesn't have to be the same watering schedule that you keep for summer or spring. Typically towards the fall, in my zone 5, they don't really need to be watered, every few days, because the sun is different here. The sun is different at this point in time, and the weather's cooler. So they're not requiring that much moisture to keep going. I also would cut back on fertilizing. And actually in the fall, I don't typically fertilize anything in ground, but my vegetable garden, I do continue to fertilize up until I pull those plants out of the ground. So this one is super important. You need to be saving seeds from your plants. If you haven't already started saving seeds, start saving them from the plants that you want to start from seed next year. If you're a seed starter, if you're not someone who's a seed starter and you want to buy all of your plants, as starts, you don't have to do that. There's nothing wrong with leaving the seeds. Don't feel obligated to save seeds if you are not a seed starter and you don't want to fool with all of that craziness, because seed starting is it is intense, and once you start, it just snowballs into this big giant baby that you have to take care of until you can get it outside for summer. So don't feel obligated to start seeds. Proceed with caution if you do. But anyways, save seeds from your plants, and then if there's anything you want to overwinter, start taking those cuttings, start digging up those plants that you've got to bring inside. I always bring back in my elephant ears and my canna lilies. I break them down, bring them in as bulbs. No foliage from those plants comes into my house. Everything is in bulb or tuber form. We dry it out a bit, and then we store it in brown paper bags in my basement until spring, until about February, and that's when I start waking those plants up again. So if you have anything like that, make sure that you have a plan to bring those back inside. I also am bringing in one of my banana trees. This is a new banana that I know for sure is not hardy to my area, so I'll be digging him up and bringing him indoors this winter. So I need to have a plan for him as well. Get your houseplants ready to bring in. If you kept houseplants outside all summer, you're going to want to bring them in, and you're going to need a process for that as well. And thank goodness, because I've got you covered. Here's what you do. First thing, cut off any dead, damaged, or diseased leaves. Do a thorough pest check and cleaning of your foliage. Even if you don't see any pests, clean your foliage. That can be hosing it down, wiping off the leaves, spraying it with a neem oil based spray, allowing that to dry. Once that's dry, then pull that plant out of the pot, shake off all that soil that you can, looking for pests, getting the pests out of there, because you had it outside, there's gonna be bugs in it. And even if you break that plant down to nothing, which I don't recommend shaking every entire bit of soil off of a plant's root system, but if you do that, there's still potential to bring pests into your home. So just know that it's a part of gardening, a part of plant keeping, having pests, but just being able to deal with that, and doing the best you can to make sure that most of the pests that are in your soil is gone. So get you some good potting mix, repot those plants, shake off as much soil as you deem necessary to get those plants back into your house. After you've repotted them, water them in, put them in a place where they can quarantine for at least a week. So for that week, keep an eye on them. Make sure you don't see any more or any pests pop up. No spider mites, no mealybugs, no just spiders in general, because spiders like to make nests in our plants as well. So just anything, if you do happen to see anything on those plants, repeat the process of cleaning minus the repot. Unless you see pests in the soil, I wouldn't repot that plant again. Repotting a plant, messing with the roots is stressful in an already stressful situation of changing environments. So just a quick note that moving houseplants from outside to inside is a big change for them. The lighting's different, the air is different, the humidity's different. Everything is different for them. So make sure that you give them ample time to adjust to their new environment before you say, well, I'm done with this, I'm going to toss it. So you might see yellow leaves, you might see wilting, you might see just a sad looking plant. Give it some time. If after a month or two you don't see any change, then okay, maybe this plant just it doesn't have what it takes to keep up in this fast-paced environment, so it has to go. There's an airplane going over. I think we'll just wait. If you have plants that need to be pruned, if you are unfamiliar with pruning and when to prune and how to prune, I would definitely do further research. This video is not going to cover pruning. There are so many different plants and so many different ways to prune them, but I would just say this: if you don't know what type of plant you're pruning, I would Google it and then do some major research, because there are certain plants that if you prune them wrong, you can prune off that next year's blooms. And that's something we don't want to do, because we want to see our blooms. So just be very cautious, put the shears down, and just do some research. And just know that you can let them sleep as is and then go to prune in the spring. So if you're unsure right now in the fall, do your research over winter, and in spring, that's when you go ahead and attempt to prune some of those wild shrubs you have. If you have any plants that you still need to get in the ground, fall is a great time to get those planted in. The earlier the better. That will give them a great chance at survival over winter, being under soil as opposed to in your garage or just left out in the garden. So if you have the space, go ahead and get them planted in. It's a great time to do that. So once winter sets in and you've got nothing else to do, your garden's asleep, your houseplants are inside, they're struggling, but they're kind of looking okay, now's the time to start cleaning your tools. You want to make sure that they're ready to go for the next season. So clean them, oil them, whatever you do. Wash old pots, wash your seed starting material, clean up your area where you keep those things. I'm speaking specifically to myself because this big red garage right here is a wreck, and it has all of my planting stuff, my pots, my seed starting trays, like everything in there, and I have not done anything. So that's definitely a winter task for me. So yeah, cleaning tools, sharpening tools, washing pots, washing seed starting material, anything that is for seed starting, you want to make sure you sterilize it. If you are washing pots that are going to go back out into your garden, well, I'm not really going to sterilize something like that. Getting organized for the next season is a great thing to do over winter. So planning for the next season, organizing your fertilizers, your pesticides, all those things that you use for gardening and houseplants, like get yourself set up for success. I hope this video was informational. I hope it was educational to those new gardeners out there of the type of things that you should do for fall. Again, you know, apply any of these tips wherever you need them. You may not have all of the same situations, so use the things that you can, do some research on the things that you don't understand, and then ask questions in the comment section. I'd be happy to help you. I have my email on this channel, so if you want to ask a private question, you are more than welcome to do that as well. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!